Hey, welcome in to Hold My Banner. If you love this show, first of all, thank you. Secondly, check out Foxborough Rush, available on Nessun as well. George Malecki and I lay out everything for the Patriots free agency frenzy, and we preview the upcoming NFL draft. Foxborough Rush can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcast. All right, here we go. Let's hold banners around here. Welcome in to Hold My Banner. Travis Thomas here with the walking, talking, triple-double. Ante Campbell. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, 2Ts. I'm ready to talk about all this Celtics basketball that we had the past weekend going into tonight. We got a good game, so, man, I'm excited.
Hey, big dog, that's a tough Willie O'Ree jersey you rocking right there, pimpin'.
I appreciate it, dog.
I like that, man. All right, so, look, I want to catch you up on this before we dive in because, you know, we have to preview the Thunder and the Celtics. But before we get there, I finally caught up, Ante.
Okay.
Celtic City. Woo. On HBO Max or Go or whatever the hell it's called these days. I checked it out, episode 1. Yeah. I didn't watch episode 2 yet, but episode 1 I watched, and I really liked it. You were right. Everything you said, like they go back to the beginning, the genesis of this great franchise. I thought it was really cool, bro.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to get some old footage of Bill Russell again, see the old guys, see the young guys, and how, you know, they're going to lay out the whole entire Celtics history. So I love it.
Can I tell you something sick and twisted in my mind, though, that I noticed from that I thought about? Is we had all this really great footage, and kudos to the Celtics and HBO, whoever like put all that together, right? Mm-hmm. Curated all that stuff. But there's a lot of really good footage of Bill Russell against Wilt Chamberlain in these like epic battles, and it wasn't grainy. It was very clear.
Here you go.
Where is the video of the 100-point game? Why can I watch in crystal clarity Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain going at it? And then they would pause it and like, watch here as Bill Russell blocks this shot, then runs down this side, and then Wilt. Why are we able to telestrate this, but we can't get any footage from the 100-point game? I'm not saying it didn't happen, Tay. I just find it a wee bit suspicious, my friend. That's all.
You know what we can watch, though? What? Celtics versus Thunder.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about the topic I had. We can watch that. So, you know, this is a possible finals matchup. Yeah. Obviously, this is the matchup that I have. You don't have it.
No, I don't.
You're not saying Thunder versus Celtics, but I am. Yeah. Travis Thomas, how do you feel about this game that we get tonight?
Yeah, I mean, listen, bro. You say that I say I don't believe this as a finals matchup. But I don't say that with my chest. It's not like I'm going around saying, ain't no damn way it's going to be Celtics Thunder. It could be. It's just not what I predicted. Yes. And that's why I am the way I am about it.
Okay.
You thought of it, so I can't give you all the props. So, of course, I'm picking different teams.
Of course.
At one point, if you remember, I was all about the Nuggets.
Right.
Then I switched to the Mavericks, and they decided to trade everyone.
Right. Then you bet on the Rockets.
Then I bet on the Rockets.
Right.
Which still stands. It's not like, you know.
Yeah, that'll go anywhere. They got your money already, so that's staying there. But, yeah, 100%.
Doesn't look like I'm going to hit that bet right about now, Ante, but we'll see what happens.
We'll move on.
If it's the Thunder, it's the Thunder. I wouldn't be shocked by it.
Okay.
Listen, could tonight be a finals preview?
It could be.
Sure. I was really impressed, and we talked about it on the show, with the Thunder beating the Celtics the last time around. So that was in OKC, right? That game.
Yep.
This one's in Boston.
105-92 last time.
Okay.
No Chet. Celtics fully healthy.
No Chet. All right. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into score predictions, I guess, for this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see it being an NBA Finals preview. I tell you what it is more so to me, a few things here. I'm looking at this game from a Thunder perspective of, okay, can you play defense this time of year? Mm-hmm. There were times this season they were very good defensively. They're really an offensive team.
Yes.
But late in the season, when it really matters, and you start ending the regular season, transitioning into postseason, can you get stops? And I watched that game the other night against the Nuggets, and the answer was no. I think the Nuggets put a $140 something on them.
Yes, they did.
And we know the Nuggets don't play defense. That's part of the problem.
Right.
But the Thunder, that was a little bit of a red flag to me. Nothing major, but this time of year, you know who is playing defense? The Celtics. The Cavs. Like, some of that matters in terms of where you do it in the season.
Yeah.
So I want to see from OKC, can they play that type of game? Because they're not going to come in here and put up big points. I am sure the Celtics are going to lock in defensively. And then as far as the C's, I just want to see a continuum of what they've been doing. Mm-hmm. They look very primed for the playoffs. I like how guys are getting rest. If Jaylen Brown needs a couple games, if Tatum needs a game here or there, they're taking them out.
Yeah.
Hey, Porzingis, hey, sit down. Don't worry about it. And guess what? This bench all year long has stepped up to the moment even more so than they did last season. We'll talk about Hauser later, who went crazy the other night. So I'm going to go Celtics. Stay in your defensive groove. And then Ante, I'm looking to see if the Thunder can get back into that. It's almost like they got to get back to the basics from what I'm seeing.
I will challenge you on one thing that you said. Calling this Thunder team not a defensive team is kind of
lately.
It's just kind of a challenge to me. Watching that game against the Nuggets, it was the same game plan that the Celtics had, right?
Right.
It was let Christian Brown shoot, let Westbrook shoot.
Yeah.
And it happened that guys like that
they hit shots.
Were making shots. Timely shots. It wasn't just shots. They were hitting them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which you don't expect. So this Thunder team still number 1 in defensive rating across the league, across the board. No one's even close. They're at 106. Next you see is 109. You know what I'm saying? So they're locking up. It's just that the Nuggets had a night. It is what it is. They're going to have night. They're NBA players, right? What I am expecting out of this game is going to be one of those defensive matchups. You're right. I'm expecting to see a team that just came off a loss. You know, SGA wants to win MVP. He's a guy who doesn't always talk about it too much, but you can tell by how he posts on Instagram, how he walks into the arena, how he shoots the basketball, that he wants to win MVP, right?
Yep.
He lost. He split with Joker in a MVP matchup type of situation right there. Mm-hmm. The first game they won, second game they lost. First game he had a better game than Joker did. Second game, Jokic got that game. He has another opportunity against an MVP candidate because everyone talks about Jokic and SGA, but Tatum is the third guy. Is he going to win at this point? No.
He's not getting enough respect.
He's not going to win.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a finalist for MVP this year.
Absolutely.
So he has an opportunity, SGA, to go against a guy who's the MVP, reigning champion.
Yeah.
You know he's going to come in there with all the spice. He's looking for a win on the road so that he can post on Instagram all his little Instagram captions. And I can expect that out of this one. Now, I'll usually let you go first for score predictions, but I'm going to give you mine right here and I'm going to lay out. Celtics 115. Thunder 121.
Oh Lord! Well,
that's how it's coming this one.
Well, you might as well take 10 paces and spin because we're going right at it in a showdown. You laid out all this beautiful. You painted really a beautiful picture about SGA and the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you with all that. However, although Jayson Tatum will not win the award, and we both admit he's not getting enough respect on his name as it pertains to the MVP.
100%.
I believe in this game. Jayson Tatum and SGA, much like you and I, will be face-to-face, mano a mano, opposing sides.
Yeah. Say it with your chest.
SGA wins the MVP.
Yep.
Jayson Tatum wins the night. The Thunder do recalibrate defensively, but the Celtics ain't new to this. They true to this.
Okay.
Defense. Give me Thunder 113. Celtics 117.
Okay.
Tatum is the star of the evening, and so are you. Because you'll be at the game. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I will be there.
All right. There it is. I can't wait. So if you see Ante at the game, come up, and say what up. There are our official predictions. Want to hear all about Boston sports? Check out Nesson's daily sports podcast, Boston Has Entered the Chat. You, too, can enter the conversation by tweeting at us using the hashtag NessonChat or email the chat at Nesson.com. Boston Has Entered the Chat is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, last scene, the Celtics, I won't say beat down because it was closer than I wanted it to be at times.
Yeah.
I'll say last scene, Sam Hauser was going crazy as the Celtics handle their business against the Jazz, 114-108. No Jayson Tatum in this game, no problemo. Sam Hauser went insane. 9 threes, scoring a career high 33 points in a win at TD Garden. Your takeaways from this game, because I honestly, Ante, and I've said this over and over again, and I know we all believe it, this is why the Celtics are champions. Yes, you have the stars and Tatum and Brown and Drew Holiday and Porzingis. I get it. But this bench being as deep as it is and explosive as it is on any given night, Pritchard could light you up. Hauser can light you up. I mean, this team is so damn deep, Ante. That is the difference. Other teams have stars around the league, a Tatum, a Jaylen Brown, but no one is this deep, my friend. No one.
You're 100% right. No one's as deep as the Celtics team. Look, them adding Torrey Craig was a huge deal because he can come in and play 12 minutes in that game the other night and give you real minutes. You know what I mean? He does whatever you need him to do. If you need him to make a shot, he can make the three. He can stick the three, right? If you need him to play defense, he's giving you that every single night. He gives you effort. He gives you energy. He wants to be a part of a championship team. And so, yes, Sam Hauser, star of the night. You said all you needed to say about Sam Hauser. What a great shooting performance for him. Happy that he was aggressive. Happy that he took advantage of the Utah Jazz in that situation. But the other guys like that, Kata, coming along this year as well. This team is a lot better this year than they were last year, which is scary to say. You know what I mean? They've had some injury bugs. Drew Holiday, KP, all that stuff, which has slowed them down a little bit. But I can tell you, when the playoffs come around, they will be ready to go.
No doubt about it. Listen, be honest with me here. If you're Cooper Flagg right now,
oh my God,
and you're focused on March Madness and you're trying to win a natty, right?
Yep.
Is there just a skosh of you, just a part of you that says, man, I hope Utah don't end up with the first pick? Because, hey, Tay, they're in position. They could end up with the first pick in this draft. You do know this, right?
They could. Yeah, they could. But look, the last thing that I want to know from this game is KP after the game told us that he has some sort of viral illness that he tweeted out about. They don't know what it is yet. They're still trying to figure it out. Look, here's my thing, and I'll talk about Drew Holiday when we talk about the Lakers game.
Okay.
But I'm a little nervous about the health of those two guys because they are vital. I mean, they were the reason, right, that we got a championship here in Boston. So, I'm a little nervous about KP. I'm wishing him well. I hope he figures it out, and I want to see him back soon.
Well, I mean, listen, I am concerned, too, to a certain degree. I think you're in a position, obviously, towards the end of the regular season here. You can do what they've been doing, put these guys on a pitch count, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing you can do is the first round, you can do the same thing because you're going to annihilate the Hawks or the Nets or
it won't be the Hawks,
the Magic or whoever. Yeah. So, I'm not as concerned because the East is tougher, I think, this season, particularly the Cavs.
Yes, obviously.
But if you can have these guys rested the best you can. No one's going to be 100% going into that series, but if you can get close to it, I like it. I also like how you completely glossed over Cooper Flagg. Anything I bring up Cooper Flagg, you want no parts of it. I just want you to know, other than me hating Duke collectively, you, sir, are the biggest Cooper Flagg individual hater that there is. I just want you to know.
I have his stats up on the side right now as we speak.
What's that mean?
So
that doesn't mean you like him.
I can't hate him that much.
It doesn't mean you like him. That doesn't mean anything.
All right, dog.
What the latest on the Patriots and the NFL? We'll tell you what Mike Vrabel and the Pats should do with the 4th pick in the NFL draft on Nesson's Football Podcast, Foxborough Rush. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, part 2 of our exciting interview with Stan Van Gundy comes up later in this program. So we'll get that later on. Just hang with us. But, Tay, I want to go to Celtics-Lakers because you were at that game.
I was.
And I actually saw a number here where that game averaged 4.61 million viewers. So remember, that was a prime time on ABC, and that made it the most watched regular season game in 7 years. So clearly, Celtics-Lakers is still the gift that keeps on giving over and over again, not just in the NBA, but in sports. You were in the building. Was it insanity?
Yeah, of course. I got some B-roll here for you, as always, anytime I get a chance to go to the game. Look at this line.
Look at this.
Look at this line on the Causeway going into TD Garden.
Wow.
2.5 hours before the game, Travis Thomas. Mind you, people were excited for this game. It was playoff atmosphere. I never seen so many people in the lower bowl trying to get a shot of Luka Doncic, of LeBron James. Here's the game before people got the opportunity to walk in. Here's Rob Pelinka. Obviously, we've had a lot of conversation about him and what his team can do. And then, of course, I got to show you guys the Lakers' big three because we know what the Celtics players look like. Here's Austin Reeves getting a couple jump shots up before the game.
Wow.
He looked good in this game. I wish he could have looked a little bit better, but he made a lot of big shots in that game. Luka Doncic, of course. What is there to say about this dude?
Doesn't look fat to me. Looks in shape to me.
Looks good. Looks skinny. Hooping. And then GOAT James. LeBron. Nah, he's not the GOAT. But LeBron James.
Why is he still doing this move?
Why do you hate this move?
Ante! He don't do this move all the time, Ante!
Hey, it was going in that night. You know what I'm saying? So I can't hate on it. And then, of course, Rui Hachimura making fun and having fun with the cameraman as LeBron is warming up. That's also some fun that they have before the game. But, yeah, talking about the game, man, a really good game in this one. LeBron ended up getting hurt. In the game, straining his groin. He's going to miss a couple weeks with that. So we got Luka to kind of close out the game, and Luka was hitting some big-time shots. It was a lot, I want to give you credit because the game ended up pretty much being how you predicted it.
I thought it would be defensive.
Right. And you said, what'd you say, 112, 102, 102,
no, I think
105?
I said 110, 101.
Or
I think that sounds about right. I think it was...
You said about that, and you said it was going to be the score is going to be a lot closer than the game actually was.
Yes.
That third quarter, the Celtics really took off.
Right.
You know what I mean? They went on a huge run, and then they fell in love with the jump shot, which is what they always do. Which is what they always do. And so they started missing, which happens.
Yep.
And the Lakers climbed back into the game even without LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those things where I noted that as well. And then, my key takeaways were it being in the building. Drew Holiday, and I know he's played 2 games now since then. I'm nervous about his hand because at the beginning of the game, even watching him warm up, it looked like he was thinking about it, laboring it a little bit on his jump shot, and then it looked like he was a little nervous. This is just from my perspective, to put the ball in his right hand. So. Yeah. It's one of those things where I walk away, say, the Celtics are clearly dominant. Their two duo is better than anybody's duo in the league.
Yeah.
Everybody's better than Tatum and Brown until they played Tatum and Brown. What did Tatum and Brown do? 71 points.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, this duo is the best duo in the league, and they proved it to me in that game.
Do you think Luka is sick and tired of being sick and tired of coming to Boston and catching L's? Do you think he's getting sick of it?
He's on a Kyrie run. So yes.
Right, he is.
He's
That's
on
a good call.
Kyrie run. So heck yeah, bro.
My takeaways from that game, it's kind of not only getting the game itself right in terms of being close to the score, it was really validation for me of how I figured a series would play out. Remember, we gave predictions for the game, but we also talked about if this is a finals, what would that look like?
Right.
And watching the game just solidified what I thought. They can't protect the rim, bro.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the key.
Yeah.
And so, and by the way.
And no Jackson Hayes in this one, so we didn't even see, their elite, rim, above the rim kind of guy.
But he's
it could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
You know what I'm saying?
But also, he's not, rest his soul, he's not the Dikembe Mutombo in the paint either.
No.
So, I even with him,
right.
I don't think it's not going to be enough. By the way, this is if they played the Celtics in the finals.
Right.
I think because they don't have that critical piece that they need,
that they won't get there.
I don't think they're going to get there.
Yeah.
I don't. I know they just beat the Nuggets during their win streak.
But I mean, without LeBron, they lost to the Nets. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm thinking of Western matchups.
Right.
You know, listen, in a 7-game series, Jokic is going to absolutely terrorize them. Mm-hmm. In a one-off, sure, you can beat them.
Right.
And it was a great game. If I'm not, I think they might have actually kind of convincingly beat the Nuggets during that win streak.
Yeah.
Convincingly. But in a 7-game series, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And I think in that game that I'm talking about, Jokic had a great game. Of course he did. So
we'll see.
I think that's going to be a problem. There's other, teams out west with the size, the Thunder, that's going to present issues for them.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
I want to, based on matchups, let's see who they play. If they get into small ball, if they play the Warriors, then they'll be just fine. But I just think some of those teams that have interior size, it's going to be tough sledding for the Lakers.
It is. But look, before we move on to college women's basketball, because I definitely want to talk about that, got to shout out Al Horford for that game.
Yeah.
Because, you talked about depth earlier.
Yeah.
He was the key in that game. And so that's one of those things where in the playoffs, Al's going to give you that kind of performance every series, at least once or twice. And so this team just riches of wealth, man.
Listen, you teased this, and I think it's a great transition. Let's transition and pivot now to the women's college game, because Selection Sunday is nearly upon us, Ante. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you something. I mean, I'm getting in trouble at home. You've met my wife. My wife's a UCLA Bruin.
Oh, man.
And she is upset with me.
Because you're not betting on bets?
I'm not betting on the Bruins, and I am rooting actively for Juju. I am Mr. Listen, I am USC Trojans in the crib. I think, or I shouldn't say I think, I hope. I want Juju against Paige in the title game.
Yeah.
By the way, we just saw this when you think about it.
Right.
Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, we saw what that did for the game over the years.
Yeah.
That matchup, that epic kind of matchup, no matter where they played. I think ratings and interest and all that, what was generated from that, I think you could see the same kind of effect with Juju against Paige for a natty. I need it, Tay. I need it, man.
I'm with you. UConn's looking like they're going to be a 2 seed in this one once it comes out. USC is going to be a 1 seed, so hopefully they don't put them on the same side of the bracket.
Right.
But it is going to be kind of tough for me to see UConn beat a South Carolina if they have to match up with them first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, even the UCLA. That UCLA team is a really good defensive team. They play hard. They're one of the best teams in the country for a reason.
Texas.
You know what I mean? Texas.
There's some great teams, bro.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm a little nervous about, if UConn can get past one of those 1 seeds, and unless somebody takes them out for them, you know what I mean? In that matchup, what Don Staley does. If South Carolina gets their hands on UConn before the national championship game.
I know, but remember this. Remember this. At least in recent years.
Yeah.
There have been great teams, but the great players rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
Like Caitlin Clark. I'm not breaking any news here. She didn't have great pieces around her. She carried that team.
She's a problem, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Betts, she's a problem, dog.
Who would you put money on right now to win it? Who would you bet on right now to win it all?
Ooh, SC.
I think I'd go UConn.
I'm going SC. If I had to bet, I'm going SC.
So I may get my wish. That might be the game. That's my point.
I go SC just because, once again, like you said, they do have a great team, and they also have the great player with Juju.
Man.
Because Kiki Irfin, she's a problem on USC as well. They have a couple of other players over there that are really good. This is a good team, even though people say, "Oh, it's Juju," but they beat UCLA twice. They lost in the Big Ten championship game. You know what I mean? And you probably have to hear about that,
bro. I was cheering,
but
that was a problem.
But also if I had to do a secondary bet, I have to say South Carolina. Like, they've been on a run.
Facts.
At the beginning of the season, they lost a couple of games. And also a sleeper team, which is really not a sleeper team, but Notre Dame. What they have with Olivia and what they have with Sonia as well.
Sure.
Like, they have a team, dog. So you got to watch out for Notre Dame. I know you're low key kind of a Fighting Irish fan as well, so you got to watch out for them.
No doubt. All right, Tay, let's get to part 2 of our interview with Stan Van Gundy. Now, remember, in part 1, he told us about his love for the New England area. In part 2, this one you're about to watch, we get stories of Pat Riley, Dwayne Wade, Kobe, Shaq. Yeah, you heard me right. Yeah. Take a look.
Thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about all of that is like you're talking about your connections, great coaches. All that came to mind for me was Pat Riley. I know it's not a New England connection, but your transition from college to the NBA has something to do with Pat, right? Like, can you tell us something about that relationship and that transition for you from college ball to the NBA?
Yeah, I got really, really lucky. I got fired at the University of Wisconsin, my first of 4 firings in my career. So, but I'd gotten fired there and was, out looking for jobs. And Pat had made the transition from New York to Miami, from the Knicks. And it was pretty contentious. The Knicks were really upset about him leaving and the whole thing. And so he had wanted to bring my brother with him. My brother was on the staff with the Knicks, but my brother was still under contract to New York. The Knicks were pissed off at Pat, so they wouldn't let Jeff go. So Pat was looking for people, and my brother said, you should talk to Stan. I had met Pat one time through Jeff. That was it, and really no conversation. But because Jeff had done good work for him, and he had respect for Jeff, I guess his hope was, well, maybe Stan will have a similar work ethic and the same thing. So I got a chance to interview with Pat, and then was lucky enough to get the job as the third assistant there in Miami. And the whole thing ended up, working out for Jeff and I. Like, one of the things people don't talk about enough when you talk about people who have risen in any career is the role of luck. Everybody wants to make it sound like it's always the best people rise to the top. That's a bunch of BS. You got to be ready for when your opportunity comes. I'm not trying to be overly humble or anything, but I coached against people at the Division III level, at the Division II level, at the Division I level in college that were every bit as good as anyone I ever coached against in the NBA. Just they didn't get the breaks that some of us got. And so that whole situation there, ended up, even though Jeff wanted to go to Miami at the time, look, he stayed in New York and ended up as the head coach there. Worked out for him. Right. I got a foot in the door in Miami. Pat gave me not only that job, but 8 years later, my first head coaching job in the NBA. I mean, just the luck of timing and everything else. Look, I've led a blessed life. People have heard me say it many times, and I don't want to get too much into politics or anything, but I would go through that thing, and people would try to argue against white privilege, and I would say, no. Take a look right here. This is what it looks like right here. Like, I've been privileged in everything that has happened. And I think I've done a good job with the breaks that I've been given. So again, I'm not trying to be overly humble or anything. But you need breaks to get ahead, and I got them. And that was a big one. And then I learned, I learned basketball from a lot of different people, but really from my father and brother, probably more than anything. But then my brother and Pat Riley were really my NBA education, and I was fortunate in that. And I think that I learned a lot in those 8 years as an assistant. And I don't know that you could have a better training ground than I had.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of talk about your relationship with Shaquille O'Neal during that time in Miami. You got to coach with Dwayne Wade. Can you give us a couple stories about those two Hall of Famers, about D Wade and Shaq, and let us know, what it was like for you to coach those stars?
Yeah, look, I mean, I remember, again, I keep quoting him, but we were at Patrick Ewing's Hall of Fame induction in, I want to say 2007. we were at Patrick Ewing's Hall of Fame induction, and Pat had played for my brother and worked for him in Houston as an assistant coach, and then I was fortunate to have Patrick on my staff in Orlando. So we're at his Hall of Fame induction, and Pat Riley went in the same year. And Jeff and I are sitting there, and as Pat was being inducted, Pat Riley, Jeff said, "You know what? You know how you get in the Hall of Fame as a coach? You coach guys," and he pointed at Patrick Ewing. He goes, "You coach guys like that who've gotten in the Hall of Fame as players." You know, and that's exactly right. You know, and I was, beyond fortunate. So my first job, I've got Dwayne Wade as a rookie. You know, and got to see. I had coached Dwayne in summer league that year as an assistant because I didn't get the job till the end of the. Pat stepped down after our last exhibition game, so I had coached him in the summer. We knew he was special. He was even better than we thought he was going to be when we drafted him. And you know, here's the thing: Dwayne Wade's very first playoff game, we're playing against Baron Davis and the Hornets. And we're holding for the last shot of the game, you know. And Dwayne Wade's a rookie. I had Eddie Jones, Brian Grant. I mean, we had a pretty good team, you know. And I go to Dwayne Wade, you know, and sure enough, scores on Baron Davis with, 0.4 of a second to go. I mean, that was, to me, like, from the beginning, like that's who Dwayne Wade was. Biggest situations, he had a mentality of just great composure, great skill. I still say to this day, knowing I'm a little bit biased, you give me any player in NBA history the ball in that situation late in the game, I'm taking Dwayne Wade. He was a master.
Wow.
No, I am. I'm taking Dwayne Wade because he was just a master of the situation. Like he left Charlotte 0.4 of a second at the other end to come back. I think that's probably the most he ever left another team to come back. No, he was like, you put him in that situation, especially score tied, it was going to be make or miss for Dwayne Wade. Like you weren't getting another shot. The guy knew the clock. He was smart. And he was maybe the quickest learner that I've ever been around. And I've been around some really, really smart guys. But, Eric Spoelstra at that time was an assistant for me. And he was the guy who worked with Dwayne every day. And they would go and work on something for 45 minutes after practice and maybe even at half speed. And the next night, you would see it in a game. You know, you're normally talking, as you know, Ante, playing, you're talking years and years and years of reps before you're ready to put that in a game, particularly at the NBA level. And Dwayne could just pick stuff up and apply it to the game. I mean, he was an absolute master. And then to know him then and to see him now, the kind of person he is, I mean, how lucky I was to have him his first year. I mean, with his, daughter and the whole thing. I mean, it just, the stuff he stands for, he and his wife, I mean, great person, great coach. And then Shaq, bigger than life. And Shaq didn't always love me, Shaq didn't always love me and the whole thing. But Shaq was all about the team and let me do my job. And he was great. That was the last year of his career that he averaged 20 and 10. I thought in 2005, I think Steve Nash got it, who was a great player. I think Shaq should have been the MVP, the way he lifted our team. And again, another guy who maybe quietly, I mean, when you see Shaq doesn't do much quietly. Like he's everywhere.
No.
Like, he's everywhere. If there's a commercial, Shaq's in it. Like, I don't know, are there 5 products in the world that Shaq doesn't endorse? But the quiet part is Shaq does so much for so many people quietly. I mean, he's just been one of the more giving former athletes there's ever been. And so I look back on the opportunity to coach those guys early in my career, Hall of Fame level guys, but great people too, and plenty more that wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, but were great players and great people. And, I'm just, as I've said so many times already on this podcast, I mean, I've just been so lucky with the people that I've been around.
Stan, it's funny because you've coached so many great players and coached with great coaches along the way, but you've also coached against great players. And I always felt like, and I know Ante feels the same way, that Orlando Magic team with Dwight Howard, you guys should have at least one ring, but you ran into a buzzsaw of the late, great Kobe Bryant. I mean, take me back to prepping to go against Kobe Bryant. Did you lose sleep, Coach?
Well, listen, I mean, there's nothing in the NBA as far as coaching that'll humble you quicker than the great players you have to go up against. You sit down and you and your assistants are, poring over film and spending hours and hours and hours to come up with game plans. And you're so confident that, this is how we have to go. And then you run into those guys and they just shatter everything you thought. You get LeBron, you play against LeBron, you play against Kobe, and it's hard to even think you're smart anymore. After a while, you're like, oh my God, I mean, I'm an idiot. I can't figure out anything. But look, those years were tough because, in the East in those years, it was us. It was the Celtics in the Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo days. And it was Cleveland with LeBron. And so it was a tough time to get through. And then, whichever one of us got through it, then you had to run into Kobe and the Lakers. And, Doc and the Celtics got past them in 2008. And then the Lakers beat us 2009, beat the Celtics 2010. I mean, it was a tough competitive time, but the respect you gain, and not just with the teams who beat you in finals or the conference finals, but just the number of great coaches and great players you go up against. And quite honestly, like, you usually hate each other while you're going through the times. You hate each other. You're like, those guys, and then years later you look back and the respect that you have for them and the competition in those series. I remember Dan Marley, like, we used to have those Knicks Heat series that were legendary because we met every year and it was the old time NBA. They were physical. And so every year Dan Marley would be matched up against Allen Houston, and somebody writing looking back, and one of the writers, I think in New York, was writing about those series and asked Dan Marley what Allen Houston and he used to say to each other in those games. And he said in all those years, we never said one word to each other.
Wow.
Not one word. Not trash talk, not nice shot, nothing. Like, that was enemy. You were out there competing and the whole thing. But I guarantee you, and I've never really talked to either one of them specifically about it, I guarantee you those guys have tremendous respect. I mean, it's when you're up against the best and you're giving your best, they're giving their best, the respect you have for them is unbelievable.
Yeah, look, I want to talk about, we got two more questions for you. I want to ask you one real quick. It's a two-parter, all right? So stick with me. Look, you coached the Pelicans, and on that Pelicans team, you had an old guy with some silky hair, a couple tattoos. He's now coaching LeBron and his son out in L.A. They're on fire right now. They're up there at the 2 seed in the West. Then on the Eastern Conference side, we got out here in Boston a 2-seeded Celtics team. These two teams could possibly match up in the finals. But I want to know, one, do you think the Lakers can keep the success going that they have right now? And two, what do you think about the champs? Do they have a chance to repeat here? How do you see them from your coaching perspective?
Great question.
That is a great question. Look, I think, first of all, I think so Oklahoma City, for all we're talking about of the great parity and depth, especially in the West. I mean, Oklahoma City's, 11 games up in the West.
Yep.
And Cleveland's running away with the East. But the reality of it is that people will always discount you until you get it done. That's just the way it is. And so I think people look at the Lakers and say, well, LeBron's gotten it done 4 times. And they look at the Celtics and they just got it done. They look at Cleveland and they look at Oklahoma City and they say those teams haven't gotten it done and they don't have anybody on them who's gotten it done. Mm-hmm. So they don't know what it takes. And so people are a little bit hesitant to say that Oklahoma City and Cleveland are the favorites. In my mind, we haven't seen 2 teams dominate the regular season the way those 2 teams have. If you go their average margin of victory, that's 2 of the top 7 or 8 teams of all time in terms of dominating the regular season. And the other teams that have played at that level have all won championships. So to me, those 2 teams are overwhelming favorites. Favorites. Now, I think the Lakers and Memphis probably have the best chance in the West, and the Lakers are an all-new team. And look, you go into the playoffs with LeBron James and Luka Doncic, you're going to be very hard to stop. I mean, that team is going to get a good shot every time down the floor with 2 of those guys. They can both score. They're 2 of the best playmakers ever. They have been defending extremely well, and I think that's going to be the question going forward. Is their defense real? Because we have seen it a couple times when people have been able to seek out mismatches on both Luka and Reeves. They don't really have in that group a plus defender. So that will be the question with them. Now you go to the East, I think it's a 2-team race right now, though New York, maybe even Milwaukee and Indiana could make it tough on somebody, but I think it's going to come down to Boston and Cleveland. And I still think Boston is going in. I would make Cleveland my favorite, but Boston would scare the heck out of me because they've done it. And not just last year. This is a team that's made deep playoff runs every year. Mm-hmm. So they've been to the finals. They've been to Jayson Tatum's only been in the league, 7 years? Right. He's been to the conference finals 5 times. Come on now. This team has gotten it done. And I think they've got, even as opposed to Oklahoma City and Cleveland, they may have the most complete roster when everybody's healthy. You know, their 8-man rotation, and they go deeper than that with guys who can help them. You know, certainly Cornette is a great 9th man, but their 8-man rotation, every guy can shoot the 3. Every guy has to be guarded. And their entire starting 5 are maybe all defense level guys. I mean, not just pretty good 2-way guys. They probably have the best defensive backcourt in the league with Drew Holiday and Derek White. I think because their offense is so good, people don't give Tatum and Brown enough credit as really high-level defenders. Those guys are great defenders. And then you got a rim protector in Porzingis, and then Al Horford, who certainly has lost a step as a perimeter defender, but because of his intelligence and his defensive instincts is still a far above average defender. And then I'll tell you what, you try to pick on Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard, which people do, and you find out pretty quickly they may be the Celtics' weaker defenders in their rotation. But they're not weak defenders. And I think the thing I like about both those guys is they have great pride. They know there's so few weaknesses in attack in Boston that they know teams are coming after them when they're in the game. And I think they have great pride, those two guys, and they get out there and say, no. We're not going to be the weak links. But I give Joe Mazzulla just so much credit because I thought at the start of last year, coming off the finals, I remember being in there doing his games and just like, because if you look back, Hauser hadn't even played a lot in the playoffs the year before, and they tried to play Pritchard in the Miami series, and Miami went after him in the whole thing. So we'd asked Joe about, do you think your bench will be up for the challenge? And Joe said, I think our bench is great. And he played those guys every night, all last year. And I don't mean just played them. Like, Joe's not the guy, right? Like, he send your bench into the game and somebody goes on a, 8-0 run. Joe's not giving them the quick hook. I mean, he believed in those guys. He played those guys, those two guys, Luke Cornett. I mean, he believed in those guys, and he developed into a great bench. And we know Pritchard, probably a two-man race for sixth man of the year between he and DeAndre Hunter. Like, he's developed those guys. And Joe, I think, again, talking about their team, Joe's been through it. So Joe's gone finals, gone conference finals and championship in his 2 years. He's been through it. You learn a lot going through the playoffs. And Joe has a strong belief in what he does, his philosophy. His players buy into it. And Joe doesn't change with the wind. Joe will go through tough times with this team as they have this year. And they will they'll fight through it. They believe in their philosophy. And I think what happens is, and we're seeing it now, the Celtics are playing at a higher level than they did early in the year. We're getting closer to the playoffs. So I'm not going to, I don't think they ever let up their intensity. That's not a team where I watched them when they were struggling and say, this team's not putting anything into it. I just think as you get closer to the playoffs, you get a little more focused. They know what's at stake. And they've got a challenge now. Like last year, they were the best team in the league all year. You knew it. Now they're looking up at Cleveland. They're looking up at Oklahoma City. And they know their game's got to take another step if they're going to go back to back. Like, they can't maintain what they did last year. They got to be better. Those two teams have set a high different standard. And I think you're seeing Boston starting to rise to that. So, look, I'm selfish. TNT has the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I would love to see the Celtics and Cleveland going at it. Look, I think you potentially have probably what will be the highest rated second round TV series going. You're going to see Boston, New York. I mean, those are great series. So, I mean, look, the Celtics are a team that always draws great ratings. There's a lot of Celtics fans everywhere. And that organization's been great, and Joe's done great. But Brad Stevens has been amazing to me. Like, almost to a point where you're like, come on, man, you can't be good at everything. Like, Butler, and you go to 2 Final Fours, and then you come in as a coach in the NBA, and that coaching transition from college to the NBA. I mean, I had 8 years as an assistant, and I'm telling you, it's not easy. Brad comes in and does a great job as a coach. And then with no front office experience, you come and do what Brad did. I mean, obviously, Danny did a great job before him, and Tatum and Brown are his. But the rest of that roster was Brad finding those pieces and making those moves to, getting the stars a lot of times is luck. I mean, let's be honest. You get the number 1 pick in the draft or whatever. The Tatum trade by Danny to get to that was a great trade. But you get Tatum and Brown. Okay, they're there. But the rest of these guys took maneuvering or great talent evaluation, in Pritchard and Hauser and guys like that, understanding the value of Al Horford, understanding what Kristaps Porzingis could be, understanding the importance when you get in the playoffs more than anything. I think what Brad Stevens realized, probably from all his years coaching in the NBA, is it's two-way players that make the difference in the finals, because if they can go at you at the other end, all right, you can negate a great offensive player if he can't guard. In the same way, you can be a great defender, but if you're somebody they don't have to guard at the other end, you're in trouble when you're up against the best teams. You can't do that to the Celtics. I don't think you can do it to Cleveland or Oklahoma City either, to be quite honest. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I thought what Brad's done, putting that roster together for a first-time GM, it's like, I mean, we could probably at this point just put Brad in another sport and he'd be able to figure it out and put together a championship. Like, come on. This guy's made coaching and being in the front office look just a little too easy for me.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You see that, Ante? I would say that Stan took us to school, but really he took us to church with all that. Stan, listen, thank you for everything you've contributed to this sport, both on the coaching side and the broadcasting side. Your entire family. I mean, your contributions to this sport is beautiful. We appreciate you coming on the show. When you're in town, please, man, hook up with Ante and I. We'd love to hang out with you, get to know you better, get some more stories from you. And by the way, thanks to all of you for rolling with us here on Hold My Banner. Until next time, when we ask you to hold it again, for Travis Thomas, Ante Campbell, and the great Stan Van Gundy, we'll see you next time. Peace.
This is